Hey guys, it's Shania and I'm back for my second video. So just a little update. I'm like close to 11 weeks. I have to confirm that. Um, but yeah, I think I'm close to 11 weeks in my pregnancy. And right now I'm at the track. I'm in like the little fielded area because it's like too bright and sunny on the track. And I didn't want to be burning while I was making my video. But yeah, so the whole reason I'm at the track right now is because I wanted to be somewhat productive and get out and get some type of exercise, fresh air and stuff. I was at home and I was dealing with some morning sickness today, like early this morning when I woke up. So I kind of didn't really want to be out at all, but I told myself, like, let me try to go get some exercise, like walk, like do something today so I'm not inside feeling all sick and depressed and miserable and stuff like that. I wouldn't say I was feeling like all depressed and miserable, but when I'm like at home for a long time and I'm feeling like sick, I feel like I start getting in my thinking mode, and then I start thinking about bad stuff and negative stuff, and yeah, it's just like a whole rabbit hole. So I was like, you know what, let me get out and let me be productive and let me go get some sunshine. So here I am. So yeah, in this video I pretty much wanted to talk about like not dealing with negativity in your pregnancy. Let me prop my arm because I don't want to be holding this phone the whole time. But yeah, you shouldn't deal with negativity like without being pregnant, but when you're pregnant you really shouldn't be dealing with it because you're carrying a baby, and like your baby feels all those emotions and whatnot, and it's just stressful, and you don't want to do that to your body, and you don't want to do it to your baby or do that to your baby. So yeah, I'm kind of learning to be more mindful about my emotions and like how I deal with stuff, because of course I'm pregnant and I don't want my baby to like feel those emotions, and to be honest, I don't even want myself to feel those emotions. So yeah, if you have to cut people off or like respond to situations different because you're pregnant, I feel like that's perfectly fine. I've already cut off like a couple of my family members because I told myself that I don't want to teach my baby certain things. And what I mean by that, like normally, before being pregnant, and I still kind of am this way, just because I'm pregnant, that doesn't mean it like magically changed. Like you have to change it. But before being pregnant, I feel like I was the type of person that gave people like multiple chances, like especially my family members. And I feel like I didn't really want to give up on the people I loved, and I feel like people aren't perfect, so you should give people like chances, because you never know if people might change or if they might apologize or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I felt like I always left that door open instead of just shutting the door and being like, F you, I don't want you in my life anymore. So for example, with my dad being in prison, he's been in prison for 16 years now, and our relationship has been an emotional roller coaster. So one of my main issues with him would be the way that he treats me and talks to me at times. Like he has an invincible attitude, so he thinks that he can bully people and like talk crazy to people and just treat people any kind of way. And then when you say something about it, or when you tell him, hey, I don't like the way that you're talking to me or something like that, he gets very defensive. Like he struggles with accountability. Like he just doesn't see anything wrong in his actions. And for the past like 16 years, our relationship has been on and off for pretty much that reason. His narcissism, his lack of accountability, and how he thinks that he can just treat people any kind of way. And then like his lack of respect for women. Like he like grew up in the streets and whatnot, and he grew up like being abusive to women and treating women any kind of way. So like he just feels like he can do women that way, and I don't think that he's learned from that, because he still does it. So I'm not gonna bash him or anything like that, because although he's my father, he still has his flaws. We all have flaws, of course, nobody's perfect. I will say he's an intelligent man, very articulate. He reads a lot, he speaks at the prison, like he's very influential at the prison, you know. He's a smart dude, like he has good characteristics about himself. But what I will say is that I have just chosen not to deal with him anymore. Like, I completely cut him off. I told myself I have a baby on the way and I want to set a good example for my baby, and I want to start while I'm pregnant, not while my baby is physically here, but while I'm carrying the baby, so that it can carry over into when the baby is born. Like, basically just teaching yourself or practicing good habits. So I don't want to be that parent that, and sorry about the birds chirping in the background, I'm in their territory, but I don't want to be that parent that tries to teach my kid something that I don't even teach myself. And so I told myself, like, when I found out that I was pregnant, I was like, I'm not putting up with this disrespect. Like, I can't do it anymore. So I completely cut my dad off. He actually tried calling me a few weeks ago from someone else's phone in prison, and I completely blocked the prison from calling me. Actually, a few days ago, he had somebody contact me, like, when would be a good time to call, and I texted the number and I was like, wrong number. So I've just decided that I'm not gonna deal with the disrespect. Like, usually I would be like, okay, this is my dad and I want to make stuff work, you know, I want to have a relationship with him, and I don't want to completely cut him off, especially because he's in prison and, you know, he needs his only daughter and he needs people to talk to. But I was like, you know what? Does he care about me when he treats me the way that he does, when he's disrespectful to me? Like, no, because if he did care, he would stop doing what he's doing. And I've had this conversation with him like for years now, and he hasn't changed. And that's another thing that I'm going to teach my child. Like, don't sit around and wait for people to change. Like, you don't have to put up with the disrespect. Like, you don't have to put up with people treating you any kind of way. If they're not going to change, like, that's not your job to make a grown-ass person change. And I tell myself that all the time. Like, my dad just turned 44 years old. Like, I shouldn't be teaching you, like, basic principles of life, that this stuff that we're taught in, like, elementary school. Like, you should already know that. And I always tell myself, like, don't feel bad for doing what's best for you. Don't feel bad for doing what's best for your child. Like, if that's the standard that you want, like, you don't want to be treated like that, that's completely fine. And just because somebody's your parent, your sister, brother, your family member, your close friend, whoever, that doesn't mean that it's okay for them to treat you a certain way. Another example would be my grandfather, my dad's dad. I'm usually really close with my grandfather, really close with my dad as well. So my grandfather recently moved out to the same state I'm in back in April. Well, not this April, but the last April. He recently, actually, I think last month, moved back to California. So he came out here. I was really happy going to see him. We were spending time together. He's diabetic and stuff, so I was going over there and helping him clean his place, taking him to get his medicine from the pharmacy, taking him on walks, you know, stuff like that. Just trying to be the best granddaughter that I could be. I have my shortcomings, but I feel like I try more than his other grandkids. So me and my grandpa, we were really close. I feel like at heart we are close, or we could be really close, but right now I am not talking to him. And I chose to stop talking to him because, much like my dad, and I'm sure this is where my dad gets it from, my grandfather doesn't have a lot of respect for women. And he was also abusive to my grandmother, and who knows who else he was abusive to, but he likes to call women out of their names, and he actually hit me before. We were at one of his doctor's appointments, and the doctor, I was pretty much his representative. The doctor gave me his after summary paperwork. She wanted him to get off of this medication that was no good for him. So the paperwork was kind of confidential. So my grandfather asked me if I could see the paper, or if he could see the paperwork, and I was like, Grandpa, this is for me, you can't see this, but I'll talk to you about it. So he asked me again, and I was like, Grandpa, this is my paperwork, I can, you know, give you your paperwork. So he decided to snatch the paperwork and hit me. I was like, After that, I was completely done with him, because prior to that, my grandpa would like disrespect me. Maybe I was trying to help him with something. It could have been something like telling him, hey grandpa, like you need to turn your stove off when you're leaving so that the place doesn't catch on fire, or whatever the case may be. And he will literally like try to argue with me about that. And I'm like, grandpa, why are you arguing with me? Like, I'm trying to tell you something good. I'm not trying to like tell you something bad or lead you in the wrong direction. Like, why do you get defensive when I tell you things? Oh, I'm 70 something years old, you can't tell me shit, and this and that. And it was just an emotional roller coaster. So I would have these moments with my grandfather where when these things would happen, when he would like cuss me out or call me out my name, call me the B word or something like that. Oh my gosh, the bunnies are out, how cute. Like when he would call me out my name or something like that, I would just like stop hanging out with him for like a few weeks or whatever the case may be. So then when I would talk to him after a few weeks, he would act like nothing happened, or he wouldn't take responsibility for like hitting me or disrespecting me. So he thought that was okay. So I said all of this to say, like, I cut my grandpa off. Some people would say, oh, that's your grandpa, he doesn't have that many years left, you need to spend time with him and this and that. Me personally, if my grandfather died today, I would feel like I spent a lot of time with him, I had a good relationship with him, and I loved him to the best of my ability. But my point is, and the moral of the story is, like, don't allow anybody to treat you any kind of way. Like I said earlier, like, I would love for my child to be able to have their great grandfather in their life and get to know him and whatnot. But if he can't respect me, like, you don't deserve to be around my child. Like, that's a privilege. Like, you can't just think that you can come around and call me out my name and disrespect me, and all I'm trying to do is help you. So yeah, I'm gonna end this video off with, you guys, don't feel bad for doing what's best for you and doing what's best for your baby. Yes, it hurts that you have to cut people off because they don't want to respect you and they don't get the picture, but they're gonna have to deal with that, not you. Like, God is gonna bless you for being a good person and for doing right by people. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. Like, what goes around comes around. You're not gonna get rewarded for doing people wrong, especially people that loved you and that were there for you. But yeah, the moral of the story is, don't put up with that, and don't allow people to stress you out while you're pregnant. Like, it's very important for you to have a healthy, happy pregnancy. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.